Hey guys.
Happy Sunday. So Mr. Huff and I have both been busy this week with our own projects. So he has been out working on the tree work once again, and we have major progress to show you guys there. And then I have been splitting my time this week between the kitchen. I've been working on some Valentine Day dessert recipes that I'm excited to share with you this week. And then I have also started tackling my own outdoor project. So I will show you that as well today. And I think big things are coming for the yard this year.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to say that I think we're going to have major progress in the garden this year. Very excited to show you that. And I think spring is starting to show signs of life here.
Yep.
We're starting to see violets and primrose, and even the forsythia looks like it's ready to bloom. So if you're somewhere where you're dealing with the cold and the snow and all of that, I promise you spring is coming. And no one is more excited about that than us. And we are so pleased to get to show you all of the exciting progress that we're going to make this year in the yard, because I think for the last 2.5 years, it has been lots of small incremental progress with tree work and invasive removal and all of that. And I think we're finally hitting that moment where it's going to start coming together. So we're really pleased to get to take you guys along and share that with you. All right, so you ready to show them what we've been working on?
Well, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I thought the best way to show you the progress that Mr. Huff has been making on all of the storm cleanup would be to come up here to the 3rd floor so that I can give you an aerial view of where he's been working. Now, you may recall that about a month ago, we had a storm that came through with 133 mile-an-hour winds. Now, overall, we fared very well, but we did have a large tree that fell onto another tree and created a pretty big project for us. So we had a large evergreen tree here that came down and fell on this large tree here, which is one that was dead and we had already been working to remove. So this left us with a tree leaning kind of suspended on the other one and a big tangle of branches that proved to be pretty difficult to deal with. Now, he has been out here pretty much rain or shine every day for the last month working on this himself. And as you can see, he's just about there. So we still have the trunk to remove here from this one. And it does have some ivy growing on it that we will have to address. So one of the things that has made this a slow and careful project is that all of these trees pretty much had ivy growing on them. And so even after he cleaned up branches, he then had to remove ivy from those branches because we didn't want to go stack all of those limbs somewhere else in the yard with active growing ivy on them and have a new ivy spread somewhere else in the yard. So we've been very heavily focused on invasive removal for the last 2.5 years, and we didn't want to start new problems for ourselves. So it's been a slow, almost surgical progress, but he's getting there finally. And as you can see, we have a very large brown patch here with no grass growing, and that is all area that is really newly opened. And I'm very excited about this because it's going to make the yard easier to maintain. It offers new options for us in terms of landscaping, even makes simple things like maintaining the yard and mowing a lot easier. And it's going to make it easier for me to get the invasives out from this area because we do have ivy growing on the ground. Now, that large tree had a understory of all sorts of invasive species like cherry laurel growing in that area. So he did remove all of those at the same time, and that's really how we've gained all of this new space. So he's nearly there. We do have quite a few limbs from this cleanup to deal with, And then we have a plan for that that's coming very soon. So I'm really pleased to say that, for the last 2.5 years, it's been lots of tree work, mostly from storms, and lots of invasive removal. And those projects are very slow and incremental, and the change isn't exactly, that overnight wow factor kind of thing. But I think, like with most things, when you're living frugally, that's really where you make the most of your progress. It's not these kind of quick before and afters. It's just that steady work that ends up amounting to something over time. So this is kind of the big year. This is the year where all of that work is going to start to come together. We have a big overall plan for the yard this year. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's also, I think, very doable. And here in the next week or two, I plan to take you guys on a walking tour and talk through our plan for the yard this year, all of the areas that we're going to be focusing on, because I think this really is going to be a big year for us. Okay, so now that I have shown you all of the progress that Mr. Huff has made with the storm cleanup, let me pop down to a different part of the garden and show you what I've been working on.
So this is a plum tree that sits in the berm between our orchard and the Jeep driveway. And the other day when I was walking by, I was surprised to notice a green canopy, because obviously all of the leaves are off this time of year. So I had not noticed previously that we had quite a bit of invasives going on. So ivy and somebody else as well. Now, once the tree leaves out for the year, it's going to be really hard for me to see all of this stuff. So I want to take care of this before that happens. So that's today's project. And I noticed that the tree next to it also has a similar project. So actually it looks like maybe the two trees next to it. So anyway, got my work cut out for me getting all of these invasives out today.
Okay, so I naively came out with just my secateurs, my hand pruners, to tackle this ivy. And now I am realizing this is a much bigger problem than I thought. So this is ivy. Look at how big it is. And this piece here. So now instead of hand pruning, I've got out the handsaw so I can cut off these great big pieces. So in a lot of cases, it's seeming like the ivy is actually bigger than the trunk of the plum tree that it's wrapped around. So we'll see how much tree we have left when I get this all out of here. Okay, so it's very windy today. Hopefully you're gonna be able to hear me. So I have gotten most of the ivy off of the plum tree and his neighbors now. So that's looking a lot better. While I was at it, I also went to town on all of the invasives growing here on the berm itself. Still have a bit of work to do there, but big progress over what it was. Now you've seen me work on this berm several times over the last couple years, and we are making progress. Like most things, it's been slow and incremental, but this year I'm going to be trying to get all of this off of here, because I think we have a plan that's finally going to get this area into shape. So definitely going to be out here quite a bit over the next several weeks, removing more and more of the invasives. We already took an entire carload of ivy to the déchetterie, or the dump, this week. So many more carloads ahead of us. Now I did get Mr. Huff to remove one tree for me while I was working on this. Right here we had a tree, a great big evergreen that was half dead. So that's really helped to clean up the area, and it's going to make it a lot easier for me to get more invasives out. And just to show you, this is that tree here on the ground. So quite a big tree. It really looks a lot neater without it. Now, while Mr. Huff was working in the back, I actually did some bush removal here in the berm as well. So I took out sort of a medium-sized bush here in this area that was making it very difficult to get in and around the berm to work on removing all of the ivy and other things. So now it's gonna be a lot easier to just be able to, for him to be able to mow and weedy down this space. And these are the palm trees that you saw me remove all of the ivy from last year. So bit by bit, this area is coming together. And I think here, for too long, we're gonna have a really nice, neat berm between the orchard and the Jeep side of the house.
So since Valentine's Day is next weekend, I thought I would share a couple Valentine's Day dessert ideas with you. So the first idea that I want to share is my new strawberry cake mix. Now, over the years, I have shared, I think, 27 different homemade mixes, including several cake mixes. And now we have a new strawberry cake mix to add to the mix. Now, this is made with all real ingredients, so it's real strawberry flavor, nothing artificial in it. And you can use this in place of any store-bought cake mix. So this will make a cake that is pink and has a really intense strawberry flavor. And this is very easy to put together. So will include a link today to this recipe in the description below the video if you want to make a pink cake for Valentine's Day. Now, the other idea that I have for you is my slow cooker chocolate tapioca. Now, tapioca is sort of an old-fashioned recipe. You may have grown up with your mom or your grandma making a tapioca. This one is a little bit different because we're going to make a chocolate version. And I'm going to do it in the slow cooker so that you don't have to fuss with soaking the tapioca pearls ahead of time or spend a ton of time stirring on the stove. So this is basically a dump everything in here and go about your day kind of recipe. So let me show you how easy this is. So first, we're only going to be using 5 ingredients to make this. And these are ingredients that I always have in the house. So it's something that whenever we get the mood for a dessert, it's very easy to put this together. Now, the one special ingredient that you will need for this is small tapioca pearls. So tapioca comes in a few different forms. There's the instant tapioca that's like in a flour consistency. There's the very large tapioca pearls that are used for things like boba. And what we're going to need for this tapioca pudding is the little small pearls. So you can see they're teeny little balls. And these are a thickener that's made from a root. So this will do a great job thickening this recipe and is what gives texture to the tapioca. So if you've never made tapioca before, it has a thicker, more gelatiny kind of texture when it's done versus, say, like a chocolate pudding, which is very smooth and consistent in its texture and a lot thinner. So let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to start by pouring some milk into our slow cooker. And this recipe is going to make 8 servings. So it's enough to feed a crowd if you want to take this to like a potluck dinner or, if you have a lot of people over, guests, whatever. Then we're going to add some granulated sugar. Here's our small tapioca pearls. And as usual, I will include a link with all of the recipe measurements. That way you can just follow along without having to worry about writing things down. Okay, and here is our cocoa powder. Now, you can use natural unsweetened cocoa powder, or you can use Dutch processed. Now, I'm using Dutch processed here because it's actually a deeper, more intense chocolate flavor, and it dissolves more easily in liquids. So it's great for pudding. And then we've got a couple beaten eggs. Okay, so the only thing that we have to do now is whisk this cocoa powder into the milk. Now, if you've ever made pudding before from scratch, you'll know that, or even cocoa, if you've made hot cocoa, dry ingredients like cocoa powder do not really like to mix into liquids. So you will have to sit here for a minute and stir this up until you get it to dissolve properly. But then after that, it is pretty much a hands-off task. Now, if you take your lunch to work or you have kids who pack lunches for school, this is also a great recipe for sticking in lunch boxes. So you could make a batch at the beginning of the week, divide it up in little half-cup servings, and then you've got several days of desserts covered. And tapioca is wonderful because you can serve it either warm or cold. So you can eat it right out of the slow cooker when it's done, or if you want, you can divide it up into individual containers and then stick it in the fridge to chill. And it is a recipe that will thicken, it'll continue to thicken as it cools. So I usually like to divide my servings up while it's still warm and then stick it in the fridge to chill for a couple hours before dinner. Okay, so I think at this point, we've done a pretty good job of stirring in all of the cocoa powder. So now we're just gonna set the lid on this, and then we're gonna put this on low for 6 hours. And then just if you wanna come back through the kitchen maybe once an hour and just give it a quick stir, for the first several hours, maybe even the first 4 hours, it's really not gonna look like it's changed much. And then suddenly it will start to thicken, and by the time hour 6 arrives, you're gonna have your tapioca pudding ready to go. Okay, so through the magic of planning, I have some that I made earlier this week, so let me get that and show you. Okay, so here is our tapioca pudding, and you can see it's a nice thick consistency, and it gets the little bubbles of texture throughout from the little pearls that are in the tapioca. So what I like to do is divide it in these individual containers if we're going to be having it, say, for dinner, and then top it with a bit of whipped cream. Nobody is going to complain if you serve this. Okay, so really easy dessert, something you can pull off on a busy weeknight. Like I said, great for bringing to potluck dinners because it's a little different than what anybody else is going to be bringing. Wonderful in lunch boxes, just really a very easy and versatile recipe. So as usual, I will include a link to both the chocolate tapioca pudding and the strawberry cake mix in the description below the video today. And now that I've shared this recipe with you, I get to enjoy my tapioca.